Hello, everybody. Welcome to this week's episode of News for Normies, where I bring you this week's news in a somewhat short time period. If you enjoy this video or learn something new, hit the like button, share it with some normies in your life, and let me know your comments down below. Especially on this one, because this is probably going to be a very spicy episode. So, with that, let's get into the news. To start with, we got some levity, or maybe anti-levity in this case. A rapper from Michigan who goes by the name Dank Damas is trying to sue Lyft because a driver refused to pick her up, citing she was too overweight for his car. This lady apparently weighs just under 500 pounds. Now, as I sit here today, I weighed in at 224.6 pounds. She is more than twice my size. Like, that's just absolutely mind-blowing to me. And ironically, if she would lift weights instead of soda and Twinkies, she might be able to fit into a Honda Civic. Apparently, as my understanding, Michigan is the only state where a person's weight is a protected class, just like race, religion, gender, etc. Therefore, if she wins this lawsuit, this could set a bad precedent for companies going forward, because people online, who are extremely overweight bitch about, like, airlines not accommodating plus-size people and stuff like that. So I'm like, dude, at what point do you realize, like, you are the problem? What I would like to see in the future is either on a state level or federal level, which I doubt that'll ever happen, like an executive order or a law passed that says that obesity alone is not a handicap, therefore no more handicap spots for fatties, and no more rascal scooters to go grocery shopping with either, because that's the whole problem. You're overweight because you do not walk, and if you want your Mountain Dew and Little Debbie cakes, get up and walk for them. And now, some of you might be thinking, oh, what are you doing, fat shaming here? Yes, that's exactly what I'm doing. And I'm calling out this person because I was extremely overweight at one point myself. To make a long story short, at my heaviest, I was 310 pounds. 3XL men's t-shirts were getting tight, and I couldn't walk up a flight of stairs without getting winded. So at that point, I realized, hey, I need to change to become healthier. And I started hitting the gym more, watching the diet, cutting out bullcrap from my diet, and wouldn't you know, at one point, I lost 100 pounds. Now, I put on a little bit of weight since then, so I'm trying to get that back off, but my point is, it's doable. Especially nowadays with, like, GLP-1s and Ozempic and stuff like that, like, you've got a cheat code, man. You can use it. So it kills me that this could be a thing going forward. On to more serious news. Since Trump took office again and immediately put in his policies to crack down on illegal immigration, cartels in Mexico engaged in gunfire across the U.S.-Mexico border with U.S. Border Patrol. Now, they must not have very good training or anything, because it appears that nobody was hurt or killed from this exchange of gunfire. But, that could escalate into something bigger should that, not get snuffed out real quick. Also, since ICE and other law enforcement across the country have been deporting illegal aliens, roughly 75 to 80,000 missing kids have been found that were trafficked into the United States. So, knowing this, it really is becoming blatantly clear to me that the previous administration was intentionally trying to cripple this country. And if you're a Democrat, you should feel bad about yourself. Your policies led to 300,000 missing kids in the United States. Which will bring me to my next bullet point of news. Selena Gomez posted a video on her Instagram stories, but she quickly deleted it, where she was crying about people being deported, saying that she feels bad for the children who are being affected. Now, while I'll admit, having, big scary dudes barge in your house and arrest you at 5, 6, 7, 8 years old would be terrifying. Like I said, there are 300,000 missing kids in the United States. So where are the tears for those missing kids because of illegal immigration and human trafficking? Or where are the tears for the hundreds of thousands of people that have died because of fentanyl being brought into the U.S. by drug cartels? So if you're crying about the deportations, spare me the tears. Because at this point, my empathy is gone. But it's not just like Spanish-speaking illegal migrants that are in the country. Chinese migrants were recently detained in Florida in 2 separate traffic stops, resulting in about 65 people being detained by police. I think there was like one person of some kind of Hispanic descent, as well as a Haitian migrant that were detained in this. But it's very weird that 65 Chinese people were detained in Florida. According to a PBD podcast that I was listening to this week, you don't really see a lot of people of like Asian heritage in Florida, especially like the Miami area where this happened. So it's very weird why they were in Florida. In similar manner, deportations have also been taking place here in Southwest Ohio, and Butler County Sheriff Richard K. Jones was in the limelight this week because of it. Now, Sheriff Jones, he's been on Fox News before and has been very vocal about his stances on illegal immigration and just his general thoughts on, having a no-nonsense approach to crime. And he does not take shit from anybody. But this week, Richard Jones had a picture posted to the Sheriff's Department Facebook page where he was standing in front of a sign that said "Illegal immigrants enter here" with an arrow pointing, which sparked some protests that took place here in the city of Hamilton. Wednesday of this week, anti-deportation protesters were in downtown Hamilton protesting outside the courthouse, because their feelings are hurt that people who broke the law are being subject to the law. And for those who might be watching that aren't, local here to Southwest Ohio, the Sheriff's Department is located in downtown Hamilton, not too far from the courthouse. So that's why they were there. Plus, where the courthouse is, it's on a very, very busy street where there's a lot of traffic during the day, especially rush hour times. So, it's a good spot to have a protest if you want to protest about something. So, because the deportations have started, the president of Colombia tried to play hardball with President Trump over receiving illegal aliens back to his country from America. But because Trump actually has a pair, unlike our former president or former Vice President Joe Biden, Trump threatened Colombia with tariffs, which then, imagine that, the president of Colombia backed down off of his threats after that. So it's funny to me that he tried to do this because y'all have really underestimated how pissed we, the people, are over this kind of stuff. And rest assured, this is just the beginning. Also, you can't claim to be a victim, like this guy tried to do, when your country literally emptied your jails and sent your violent criminals here. So, too bad, so sad, get the fuck over it, and, deal with your own shitty people there. Because I don't want to see another victim like Laken Riley again. Which then kind of makes me think, like, oh, what if it's an American, that rapes and kills somebody? Then execute him. Like, I've been pretty, blatant about my thoughts there, too. You cannot rehabilitate rapists. So why do we keep sucking up taxpayer money to feed and house them for the rest of their life? Doesn't make any sense to me. But in the vein of underestimating how pissed off people are, J.D. Vance did an interview with Margaret Brennan on Meet the Press, and when the topic of immigration and deporting illegal aliens came up, Vance told Margaret Brennan, and I quote, "I don't really care, Margaret," end quote. And to that, I agree. You know, I was just talking with my parents today about this. You know, it just it really burns me up when my wife and I go to the grocery store in both of our cars that are kind of beat up right now, and we have to, we set a list of things and try to buy the cheapest stuff to save money and all this stuff in our beater cars, but you have people who are clearly here illegally, don't speak a lick of English, and are rolling around in a brand new Ford Expedition or something. Like, why is it? Why do we just hand free shit to people who aren't even citizens of this country, but people who are citizens of this country and have been for a long, long time got to foot the bill for it? Like, that shit burns me up too, as well as violent criminals just victimizing our people here. So yeah, I don't really care, and if y'all want to cry about it, spare me the tears, Selena. But anyway, moving on. Speaking of fake news, Jim Acosta is now leaving CNN less than a week after he was put on a midnight slot for the network. He gave this speech on air about, never giving up the fight and don't let fear win and, don't believe the lies, da 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 da. It's like, dude, you should have had your back to the camera and said that to all the people sitting there behind you, because your network itself has been the one fomenting fear and spreading lies for God knows how long now. So at this point, it seems like the garbage is taking itself out, and the swamp is being drained. So bye bye, Jim. Don't let the door hit you in the ass on the way out. Speaking of cleaning up the garbage, roughly 24 J6 prosecutors have been fired in D.C. this week. As anybody who has some common sense knows, most of the J6 protesters were not violent. A lot of them were led into the building by police, and there were only a few people who were actually doing, damage to property and fighting with cops. So, again, glad to see you gone. As well as this, a former Federal Reserve advisor has been arrested and accused of selling information to China. I really want people to wake up about China and how big of a problem they pose to the United States and, quite frankly, the rest of the Western world today instead of Russia. I believe that this Cold War mentality has carried over because most of our politicians in D.C. are old and decrepit and still think that Russia's our biggest threat. It's like, they're not. They're a paper tiger at this point, and we've seen that in Ukraine. So please, people, for the love of God, get that Cold War mentality out of your heads. Excuse me for a second. High quality H2O. All right. So back to Trump. Trump said that he wants to do away with income taxes again, to which I support 1,000%. If he does this, I will be forever grateful to him. I mean, I might get a statue of him made to put in my house. Because we, the people here, are taxed entirely too much as citizens of this country, only for our federal government to waste it away, like sending billions of dollars to Ukraine for a war that we aren't even a part of, or, get this, sending $50 million worth of condoms to Gaza. Like, why the hell are we sending condoms to Gaza? You'd think in a place where a genocide is taking place, having babies and replacing the population, as well as just, food, water, and medical supplies would be a necessity and a priority over condoms. Plus, when you kind of dive into the Muslim faith, like, that kind of stuff's a no-no. So why are we sending condoms to people that probably aren't going to use them for their intended purpose? I don't know, makes one think. It's just shit like that blows my mind. Also, don't forget that the federal government spent in a sickening amount of money to run a test where shrimp ran on a treadmill underwater. Why? Why? Are we trying to make super shrimp? Like what are we doing here? Um yeah, so to save the federal government money in the future, Trump wants to cut the number of federal employees and offered to buy out about 2 million people, offering each person about 8 months worth of pay, which could ultimately save the government about $100 billion in the future. That's a lot of condoms. Sorry. Um, this also came after he mandated that all federal employees return to in-person work and no longer work from home. Again, I completely agree with this. Because these federal agencies and stuff, they still have buildings that they rent and have to pay, rent on, pay for utilities to heat and cool the buildings, maintenance on the buildings. So if they're like less than 10%, staffed in person, like, why are we doing this? Why are we wasting money? Also, if you happen to be a federal employee and you're crying about it, suck it up, you pampered little bitch, and go do real work for once. Because people like me never got the chance to work from home since COVID, because blue collar people have actual work to do. You know, you people are so pampered, it drives me crazy. Um, so, in the same vein, Trump tried to pause mass federal spending on government programs, but that one actually got held up in court. And leave it to the left to immediately start crying about it, stating, "Oh, Trump's going to starve the children," or veterans wouldn't get their benefits and stuff. But when you look at the memo on this, it was stated in very plain language that programs such as SNAP, EBT, Social Security, veterans benefits, and other programs like that would not be affected. So again, these communists are lying to you, and they're trying to destroy this country by lying about the truth. It boggles my mind. Maybe that's why I do this, just to get all this stuff off my chest. Okay. So, more news about Trump. He signed an executive order that would combat anti-Semitism on college campuses. So, that's good old Super Hitler there for you, trying to combat anti-Semitism. Now, while the principle of this seems good, excuse me, I think it'll be hard to enforce because of the First Amendment. People who hate Jews are still allowed to say that they hate Jews, because that's what the First Amendment protects. It protects the freedom of speech. It's absolutely abhorrent, and I don't agree with, anti-Semitism or hatred of anybody because of their race, religion, skin color, or what have you, but it's still allowed. Now, to my knowledge, this executive order will crack down on college students who are here, like, on visas and stuff, and are causing problems. But again, I don't know how well this will work. Aside from this executive order, though, Trump said he wants to defund schools that are teaching critical race theory and gender ideology, and to that I support 100%. It's when you try to just point white people as the problem all the time, you're going to create more of the thing you're trying to do away with. I mean, it kind of makes common sense, but I mean, we're living in a world without common sense anymore. So, we're just going to move on from that. Yeah. Speaking of people without common sense, Senate confirmations of Trump's cabinet nominees are still going on. And RFK Jr. was grilled this week by the Senate during his confirmation. These idiots scorned him for being anti-vax, even though he's made it blatantly clear before on social media and even in a book he wrote that he doesn't hate all vaccines, He just has very, very big skepticisms and questions about the COVID shots. Um, and they even demanded that RFK Jr. pledge allegiance to all vaccines, which I'm like, what does that even mean, or what would that even do? I don't understand it. Um, Elizabeth Warren, aka Pocahontas, was up there just screaming like a deranged witch again. And feminists, y'all really sent the best and brightest there, didn't you? Yeah, this just gives me more evidence that these people are in a cult and are brainwashed. So, moving on. Some good news here before we wrap up with some kind of tragic news. The Fifth Circuit Court of the United States ruled that the ban on selling handguns people aged 18 to 20 is unconstitutional. That doesn't mean that that law is overturned yet. They just ruled it unconstitutional. I think it's got to go to the Supreme Court, and they'll have their say there. But this is big news for gun rights in the United States, and again, is kind of a common sense ruling because, the founding fathers didn't say that you had to be a certain age to own this thing and a certain age to own that thing and all that kind of stuff. So it just kind of common sense. But again, we're talking common sense to people that don't have it. Also, the law, it's goofy, in my opinion, because how is it that an 18-year-old can be sent off to war and given fully automatic rifles to go conduct war with, but you can't buy like a Glock for self-protection? And also, as the laws are currently written, an 18-year-old can buy a Barrett 50 caliber rifle, a rifle that can hit a target from easily a couple miles away, and that also costs $10,000 to $15,000, but not a $500 pistol to ward off a mugger at the ATM. To go withdraw his money that he worked for that the government taxed the hell out of. These laws make no sense. Let me show you here. So, when I was 18, I saved up every penny I could at the time to buy this here. This is a standard AR-15, chambered in 5.56. Bought it with my money at 18 years old. Perfectly legal to do, right? But there we go. At 18 years old, I couldn't have bought this. This is a Glock 43X with a red dot sight on it. Couldn't buy that when I was 18 years old. Doesn't make any sense to me. Anyway, this ruling was very much due to the Firearms Policy Coalition, or FPC for short, and not the NRA. Let me remind you, the NRA is not a gun rights group. They advocated for gun control in the past when Reagan was governor of California, and they were also okay with the whole pistol brace thing, the bump stock ruling that Trump had in his first term, which is one of my biggest criticisms of Donald Trump. So if you are an NRA member, remember this, and I suggest you end your membership with them and give your money to actual gun rights groups like FPC or GOA, Gun Owners of America. So, rant over on that one. So some very bad news that happened this week. An American Airlines plane collided with an Army helicopter at Dulles International Airport just outside of D.C., and sadly, there were no survivors from this. Of course, politicians pounced on this immediately, and the left started saying it's Trump's fault for cutting employees, and the right was blaming it on DEI practices. Well, turns out the right won this argument again, because apparently this airport has been understaffed since 2023 as they prioritized hiring people based off of skin color, mental and physical disabilities, and more, instead of hiring people that are just competent people that can do the job. So, okay, if you want to hire people like that for grocery store baggers or, things that don't require, like, people to pay attention at all times and can press buttons at all times, like, okay, whatever. But in something this serious, you need to have people that are competent and can do the job, period. I don't care what they look like as long as they can just get the job done. And again, according to my knowledge, because the airport was understaffed, there was one air traffic controller that was handling multiple aircraft at one time instead of like one person per aircraft. So it is very easy to say that this is clearly not Donald Trump's fault. Again, they've been understaffed since 2023. Trump just got it back in office in January of 2025. Like, you do the math on that one. And speaking of plane crashes, another plane crashed in Philadelphia Friday night, around 6 p.m. And this one was like a small Cessna type jet that crashed in a residential area, resulting in multiple fatalities and even a couple houses catching on fire. Um, at this point, it's not really clear why this plane went down, but the video looked as if the jet like came almost at a nosedive at the ground. Um, so it's not like it was trying to make like an emergency landing or something like that, like Sully landing that jumbo jet on the river. It was just like that. So weird. I will try to keep my ears open for what went on with that and maybe talk about it next week. Um, so to end, you know how I said people need to wake up about China being a big problem? Well, turns out China has released a new AI program called DeepSeek, which caused a big scare in the technology markets this week, causing stock prices of companies like Nvidia to take a dip. Um, DeepSeek could be very problematic because the Chinese claim that they made this on about $6 million compared to other AI programs like ChatGPT that cost over $100 million. So, also, to nobody's surprise, if you ask DeepSeek things like what happened in Tiananmen Square, it tells you, oh, nothing happened. So that's a problem. Um, so just like my warning about TikTok and RedNote, I would encourage people to not use this because who knows what kind of like privacy invasions it has too. Um, so shout out to the PBD podcast again, who came up with this idea. I think it was actually Patrick Bet David himself that said it. Um, Trump should prohibit Chinese tech companies like this from operating in the United States until American tech companies like Facebook, X, and more can operate in China. Because as we know, platforms like that aren't allowed in China because, well, you know it, the Chinese, or I'm sorry, the communists don't like people having access to free speech and free information that isn't censored by the government. And if people start learning things that the Chinese government told them not to learn about or didn't want people to learn about, it might get people asking questions, and things could snowball from there. So, yeah, don't use DeepSeek. And I would say any Chinese tech company like that should just be, shunned and even banned from the U.S. until some sort of equal trade agreement or whatever can be had in that regard. So, again, I'm not an expert on this stuff. I just listen to the news all week and try to filter it through my own mouth for you guys. So, thank you for watching. If you got this far, hit the like button, share, subscribe. Let me know your comments down below. If I got something wrong, let me know, because I don't want to be like CNN and, spouting misinformation like that. And, just keep on keeping on. So, with that being said, I thank you for watching. Hope you have a good week, and I will see you all next time. Thank you.